All right.
Okay.
So good afternoon. This is Mariah Bowen. I'm the Vice President of Governmental Affairs with the State Medical Society, and I'm joined today by Representative Aimee Adatto-Freeman, who is a newly elected representative, though she has now 4 sessions under her belt. She represents New Orleans, and I have asked her to join me and just give you all the opportunity to get to meet her. So Representative Freeman, why don't you just give us a little background on yourself and share a little bit of what you're interested in.
Sure. I've survived 3 terms. Don't give me a 4th term yet. Or session, 3 sessions, I should say. This is my 1st term, but I've survived 3 sessions. I'm from New Orleans. I'm originally from New Orleans, and I've lived here the majority of my life, except for a few years when I was away for college and working in Washington, D.C. And my father is a retired physician, Dr. Kenneth Adatto. He was an orthopedic surgeon. And my grandfather, who was a World War II veteran, was a psychoanalyst. He was a general surgeon in World War II. And then he came back to the States and started to study the mind after doing so much surgery during wartime. So, and he settled in New Orleans, which is how the Adattos ended up here. There's not a lot of us in New Orleans, just my dad now, and me and my sister. So I am a business strategist and have worked with companies for the bulk of my life, anything from an early stage startup to a family-owned business to HSBC Bank, which is an international bank that I've done work for. And what I do in my professional career is strategic planning for businesses and organizations to try to help them maximize their potential as they grow their business. And I come in and I listen, and I spend a lot of time, not somebody who works in the business every day, but somebody who can hear what's happening and not live in the business. So I work strategically with my clients to help them with growth goals. And I always base it on their finances. So it's a real picture of what's happening financially with the company or the organization. And oh gosh, Maria, I did not know I was doing it. Like I feel like that was very disjointed. Sorry.
It was great. Actually, I think the more people get to know you as you are, the better.
Okay.
Just give you a little bit of a different perspective on what a state representative is like in real life, because I
Yeah.
think people find it very intimidating to talk to y'all when they
Yeah.
come to the Capitol. And so I like to give them the perspective of you as a real person.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that
So I'm also the mom of 4 kids. Our oldest daughter is 32 and lives in Denver, and she's married. And we have a son who's 30 and has an 8-year-old boy, and he lives in New Orleans, and a daughter at LSU who's studying to be a teacher. And our youngest son is a 2nd-year student at the University of Virginia. So I've been a working mom most of my life. So I am very well aware of the doctors, especially the working mom doctors out there, how it is to juggle family life and your job. And so this is my new part-time job, being a state representative, and I got elected right before COVID. So the first 3 sessions were quite interesting to me, but because I'm such a strategic thinker, I enjoyed the process even when I was frustrated. So I was able to take the bills that I wanted to get passed and figure out that each one had its own path and its own strategy. And so I feel really happy that in my first 3 sessions, I was able to establish very good relationships with the leadership on both the House and the Senate side, and as well as with the governor and his team. And to me, being in Baton Rouge, to be successful, and my definition of success as a legislator is getting bills passed and signed and made into law, or stopping things that may not be appropriate in my district, or representing that area. So I've really enjoyed that part of it a lot. And I think before you get to Baton Rouge, you know all the things you read in the paper, but the relationships aren't as strenuous as they seem in the news. So
is so true.
you know,
It's a lot more congenial. I find that a lot of that of where you work cooperatively never gets the print in the paper, because it's not nearly as fun as and exciting to read. So
yeah, I don't think that sells newspapers the same way.
Not.
I will say that there are times when it feels frustrating, and you just have to sort of walk away from it and realize, okay, that was a bad day in the building. And, just like any other job, we don't always have a good day. And, I had, I think, 6 bills that died on the vine, and I had three that got signed by the governor and are now law. So you don't always make it to the end of the project. So I kind of look at each bill as its own project as I'm going through them. So.
That seems like a good way to do it. Was there anything in particular that made you decide to run for office?
I was really tired of us being 50th on everything, or 49th or 48th. I mean, it's just something that has driven me crazy personally for a long time. And having raised 4 kids and hoping that to make a better state for our kids and our grandkids, really, that was a big motivator. And the fact that I was at a point in my career and in my life that I could offer myself up for public service and be part of a discussion for positive change in the state, really. I mean, it sounds kind of holistic and a little bit trite, but it's true. I just really wanted to make a difference in a public service kind of way. I don't see this as a career change. I see this as a moment in time for me to help Louisiana.
That's a good goal to have. Do you think that, I guess you can't really talk about what we've done this last year without discussing COVID. And I feel like that had to have been quite a shock to your system as a new legislator, believing that you were going to get to tackle some issues that were important to you, that were idealistic types of, because I know you're very keen on helping women and children. And a lot of what you probably wanted to do got pushed off to the side because of the impacts of COVID. So how did that sort of impact what you saw?
Well, so as a new legislator, it was really interesting because obviously we were just sworn in. We come back for the beginning of session, and all of a sudden, boom, COVID happens, right? And we're all home. And I will say it was clearly a shock to all of us that we were having to figure out how to function in a new way. And of course, this was a new job, even though it's a part-time job, which I think a lot of people don't realize how part-time it is. Legislators do get paid per diems when they're up there, but that's pretty much a wash. That's your hotel and maybe your lunch. It's not enough money to go out to some fancy restaurant. So what I found is, with everything being new, when I'm in something new, I really commit to it. And so I really want to learn the system and try to figure out how things work. And I was very pleased that the current leadership that is in charge really helped us in that way. So for example, I'm on appropriations, and I've always been a numbers person. I have an MBA that I earned 25 years ago. I'm not a financial person, but I know that numbers tell a story. So I really knew that I would be of value to appropriations because I could look and sort of see what's happening and ask appropriate questions. And the chairman of appropriations during COVID did what he called small group calls with us. And by law, we can't meet more than, I think it's 9. Once you hit 9, it's a public meeting.
Right.
So he did small group calls with staff to explain to us the budget process, because normally we would have had a lot more meetings to understand all the different agencies, and he was able to schedule some of those, but the amount of work that you usually do in appropriations wasn't able to happen. But to have Chairman Zerang as a leader to say, you know what, I've got a lot of new legislators on my committee. I need to help them. And so that was something that really helped. I felt like the speaker was always accessible for help as well. I'm a member of the Democratic Caucus, which has been very helpful, and the Women's Caucus. And both of those caucuses have been very helpful. And the first bill that I was able to pass and make into law was a local sales tax exemption for diapers and feminine products. And that's been something that's brought up over the years. And COVID actually helped me, because some of my legislative friends were skeptical of locals doing something different. Like some of the Republicans that I serve with don't like, okay, well, why does New Orleans do it differently than Lafayette and somewhere else? But they realized so many of our families who already were stretching their dollar, that little bit of sales tax exemption could really help. So they allowed me to pass it. It does have a sunset on it, so it expires in 2021 at the end of this year. But it was able for me to bring the conversation further. I'm not quite sure if the bill would have made it as far as it did if it weren't for COVID. So there's that. And I don't know COVID. I don't know the legislature without COVID. From what I understand, there were more parties and more, things happening outside of the legislature, in the evenings or different lunches and such. I think not having those actually brought us to having to talk to each other more because we were with each other and there were so many new legislators. I think that was really a benefit to the body, because even the people that I might be completely on another side with, I know about their kids or their grandmother or their mom who died of cancer because we had time to actually speak with each other more.
That's a really great point.
So, and now on the flip side, I think we lost a lot of the public comment, right? And I'm very concerned about that because I think some certain things that did get through, not some of my bills, but some of the bills that I voted against, that if you'd had the appropriate level of public comment, wouldn't made it all the way to the end. So there was the goods and the bads, but if someone had said to me when I was running, when I was in the most crowded race in the Louisiana legislature in 2019, there was 7 of us, right? So if someone had sent me a little fortune cookie message that said, when you are elected on the 9th of March, there will be an announcement and you will be serving in the middle of an international health crisis. I don't know if I would have said yes, but you get put places for reasons, and I do think I've been able to make some change thus far. It's only 3 sessions, but we've got a few more to go, and I'm going to keep working as hard as I can.
And it showed. I mean, I felt like that y'all were a very studious group and you took the time we may have had to interact differently, but we did have the opportunity to at least have good conversations. I do completely agree with you on the lack of ability for the public input, especially for the people that we represent. I mean, I could not in good faith ask physicians to come to the Capitol in the middle of a pandemic when they're treating patients. So it was genuinely hard for me to provide, the real professionals who have a better understanding. I guess it's the old cliche. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. It's kind of how I felt this year, right? So I completely concur with you on that. And I want to personally say I totally appreciate your willingness to work with us and hear us on our issues and to help us a lot of times. I do want my membership to be aware that you are very, very good for us and very helpful in listening to us and helping us craft better messages. So I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, it's interesting because that's kind of what I do. My career is listen. My kids think that I don't because you're always different at home than you are when you're in your job. But they say you talk so much and you say, and I'm like, well, actually, when I'm in my job, I listen a lot because that's what I have to do. So I'm happy to listen, and I'm happy for your members to reach out to me through you or directly if that's something that's specific. And I encourage. I know it's hard as physicians for you to have the time to be able to reach out because your first priority is treating your patients. And I know that very well from having grown up in a household where there was, a second line. There could be a call number for the hospital to call my dad when he was on call. So I'm well aware of, when he had the big beeper on his side when we would go somewhere and being on call on holidays and different things. So I know that you don't have a ton of time to deal with legislative issues, and I would just encourage all the members to be aware of things that may impact their life and their businesses or their practices, because legislators don't know that unless you tell them, so I hope most people will listen. I know I will, so I can speak for myself, but there are lots of legislators that are very approachable. And even if they disagree with you, they will give you the time.
I will say that the new group of y'all, we may disagree, but I don't find that we're particularly disagreeable.
Yeah.
And that's been a pleasant thing this time around, because I have worked with the legislature for a number of years, and we have had some groups come in that were not nearly as interested in hearing us as making things happen. I appreciate your taking the time. You're my first interview.
Well, I hope it went okay. I don't know if you're cutting it or anything or what you're.
Well, no, and I hope you'll come back and join me when we figure this out a little better.
Well, I'm happy to do it. And I'm happy to be available to discuss things. And let's hope that we get this vaccine moving and everyone's in a better position 2021 and 2022 going forward. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and have a good day and Happy New Year. I didn't even wish you Happy New Year.
You too. Okay, thanks, Mariah. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.